You woke up this morning, and before you said a single word to God, before you said a single word to yourself, you picked up your phone. Don't feel bad. So did nearly every person watching this right now. In fact, studies show that the average person checks their phone within 3 minutes of waking up. Not 30 minutes, not after breakfast, 3 minutes, before their feet have even fully hit the floor, before their eyes have adjusted to the light, before they've taken a single deep breath, they're already in it, already scrolling, already consuming. Already letting the world pour itself into their mind, before they've had a single moment to themselves. And we've normalized it so completely that it doesn't even feel strange anymore. It just feels like morning. But I want to ask you something today that nobody in your life is probably asking you. What if that habit, that small, automatic, completely normal thing you do every single morning, is slowly killing your faith, your focus, and your peace? What if the way you start your day is quietly determining the condition of your soul? What if you have built an altar in your bedroom, and you don't even know it's there? That's not a comfortable question, I know that, but comfort has never been the thing that sets people free. Truth does. So today we are going to go deep. We are going to talk about something that is affecting every single one of us, whether we want to admit it or not. We are going to talk about the digital world, not just as a distraction, not just as a bad habit, but as a spiritual issue, a heart issue, a worship issue. Today, we are confronting the digital Goliath. Let's start at the beginning, because to understand where we are, we need to understand how we got here. 20 years ago, the internet existed, but it lived on a desk in the corner of a room. You had to walk to it. You had to sit down, wait for it to load, and then walk away when you were done. It had boundaries, it had a place, it knew where it belonged. Then came the smartphone, and everything changed. Suddenly the internet wasn't in the corner of a room anymore. It was in your pocket. It went everywhere you went. It came to the dinner table. It came to bed. It came to church. It came on vacation. It was always there, always on, always waiting. And slowly, gradually, it stopped being something you went to and started being something you lived inside of. Think about that shift for a moment, because it is massive. There is a profound difference between using a tool and living inside one. A hammer is a tool. You pick it up when you need it, and you put it down when you're done. But what we have with our phones is not that relationship anymore. We don't pick it up and put it down. We carry it like an extension of ourselves. We feel phantom vibrations in our pockets when it isn't even there. We feel genuine anxiety when the battery hits 20%. We feel lost, actually lost, if we leave the house without it. That is not a tool relationship. That is something else entirely. And here is what nobody wants to say out loud, that something else has a name. It is called dependence. And in the spiritual life, when we are dependent on something other than God for our peace, our identity, and our sense of worth, that has another name too. We call it idolatry. Now I know that word makes people uncomfortable. Idolatry sounds like something from the Old Testament. It sounds like something that belongs in a history lesson, not a conversation about modern life. But stay with me here, because I want to give you a definition that might change the way you see everything. An idol is not just a statue. An idol is not just something people bow down to in a physical sense. An idol is anything you turn to for what only God can give. Read that again. An idol is anything you turn to for what only God can give. Validation, worth, identity, the assurance that you matter, the feeling of being seen and known and loved, the sense that your life has purpose and meaning. These are the deep needs of the human soul, and they are needs that were designed intentionally, deliberately, by the God who made you to be met by Him and Him alone. But here is what happens in the digital age. We feel lonely, and instead of bringing that loneliness to God, we open Instagram. We feel invisible, and instead of grounding ourselves in the truth that we are known fully and loved completely by the Creator of the universe, we post something and wait to see how many people respond. We feel purposeless, and instead of sitting in prayer and asking God what He has called us to, we scroll through other people's highlight reels until we feel worse than when we started. We are taking the deepest needs of our souls and we are feeding them junk food. And then we wonder why we feel empty. Here is the brutal truth. The digital world will never give you what you are looking for. It was not built to. It does not have the capacity to. No number of likes will make you feel truly worthy. No amount of followers will make you feel truly known. No comment section will give you the unconditional love that your soul is starving for. These things are shadows. They are imitations. They are counterfeits. And counterfeits never, not once, satisfy the hunger they pretend to address. So how did we get here? How did something that started as a communication tool become something with this kind of hold on us? The answer is more deliberate than most people realize. And when I tell you this, I don't want you to hear it as a conspiracy theory. I want you to hear it as a fact, because it has been said openly and publicly by the very people who built these systems. These platforms were designed using the same psychological principles as slot machines. They were built to be addictive. Variable reward schedules, the same mechanism that keeps a gambler pulling the lever, were intentionally baked into the design of social media feeds. You scroll, and sometimes you find something exciting, and sometimes you don't. And that unpredictability is exactly what keeps you scrolling. Your brain gets a hit of dopamine when someone likes your post. It experiences a kind of withdrawal when the notifications stop. This is not metaphor. This is neuroscience. This is what is happening inside your brain every time you interact with these apps. Former employees of major tech companies have come forward and said it plainly. We were trying to create products that consumed as much of your attention as possible, not because they cared about your well-being, not because they wanted to serve you, but because your attention is the product. It is what gets sold to advertisers. You are not the customer, you are what is being sold. And we signed up for it. We downloaded the apps and agreed to the terms of service without reading them, because who does? And we handed over something far more valuable than our data. We handed over our attention, our time, our mental and emotional energy, the very resources that should be going toward our relationships, our calling, and our walk with God. This is not just a bad habit. This is a battle, and you are losing it without even knowing you are in it. Let me paint you a picture of what this actually costs. Costs you your mornings, that sacred quiet window at the start of every day, the time when your mind is fresh and your heart is open and God has things to say to you. That window gets swallowed. You pick up the phone at 6 a.m. and suddenly it's 6:45 and your mind is already full of other people's opinions, yesterday's news, and a list of things you didn't know you were supposed to care about until someone told you to. And now you are going into your day reactive instead of grounded. Distracted instead of focused, already behind before you have even started. It costs you your relationships. Think about the last time you sat down for a meal with someone you love and neither of you looked at your phone. When was that? Think about the last conversation you had where you were fully present, not half listening while mentally composing a caption for the photo you just took. We are physically in the room with the people we love and emotionally somewhere else entirely. And they feel it, even if they don't say it. Your children feel it. Your spouse feels it. Your friends feel it. Presence is a gift, and we have stopped giving it. It costs you your peace, because the digital world is not a peaceful place. It is designed to provoke. Outrage gets more engagement than calm. Fear spreads faster than hope. Comparison is built into every scroll. You are not designed to process the suffering of the entire world simultaneously, to have opinions on every controversy, to be emotionally affected by the lives of thousands of strangers every single day. But that is what your feed asks of you. And over time, that weight accumulates. That noise gets louder, and the quiet voice you actually need to hear, the one that speaks to your soul in stillness, gets harder and harder to find. And perhaps most importantly, it costs you your spiritual depth, because depth requires stillness. It requires sustained attention. It requires the ability to sit with something long enough to let it transform you, but the digital world trains the exact opposite. It trains you for distraction. It trains you to need novelty every few seconds. It trains you to skim instead of dive. And when you bring those habits to your prayer life and your time in the Word, you wonder why nothing seems to land the way it used to, why your faith feels thin, why God feels distant. He is not distant. You have just trained yourself out of the ability to be still long enough to find Him. Now I want to talk about what reclaiming your life actually looks like, not in theory, in practice. Because here is the mistake most people make when they try to address this. They try to white-knuckle it. They delete the apps for a week and then reinstall them. They make a rule about no phones after 9 p.m. and break it within 3 days. They try to fight a billion-dollar algorithm with willpower alone. And when they fail, because they will fail, they feel shame, and the shame makes them feel worse about themselves, and feeling worse makes them want to escape, and escaping means reaching for the phone. Willpower is not the solution, wisdom is. David didn't defeat Goliath by trying harder. He won because he fought differently. He didn't put on the same armor as everyone else. He didn't engage the giant on the giant's terms. He walked toward the problem with clarity, with confidence, and with a strategy that nobody expected. And that is exactly what we need to do. So here are the practical strategies that actually work. The first and most important one is this: guard your mornings like your life depends on it, because in a very real sense, your spiritual life does. For the first 30 minutes after you wake up, and I would say the first hour if you can manage it, do not touch your phone, do not check messages, do not open social media, do not read the news. Use that time for prayer, for scripture, for journaling, for sitting in silence before God and letting Him set the tone for your day before the world gets the chance to. This sounds simple. It is not easy. Your brain has been conditioned to reach for that phone the moment it wakes up, and the first few days of breaking that habit will feel genuinely uncomfortable. The urge will be real, but push through it, because what is waiting for you on the other side of that discomfort is a version of your morning, and therefore a version of your whole day that you may have forgotten was possible. Grounded, focused, peaceful, you. The second strategy is to create sacred spaces. Decide right now that there are places in your life where the phone does not go. The dinner table is the obvious one, but also consider your bedroom, what would change in your sleep, in your marriage, in your morning if your phone charged in another room. Consider your church. Consider any time you are with your children that is supposed to be quality time. Make those spaces physically phone-free, not phone-ignored, phone-free. There is a difference. Ignored means it's still there, still pulling at your attention. Absent means the temptation is removed entirely. The third strategy is the weekly audit. Every week, I do mine on Sundays. Look at your screen time report. Actually look at it. Don't just glance and close it out of shame. Sit with it. Ask yourself, if someone watched how I spent my hours this week, what would they conclude that I valued? Because your screen time tells the truth even when your intentions lie. It shows you what you actually chose, not what you wish you had chosen. Let it convict you. Let it inform you. Let it guide your decisions for the week ahead. The fourth strategy is intentional replacement. Nature abhors a vacuum, and so does the human heart. If you simply remove screen time without replacing it with something meaningful, you will fill that space with the next available distraction. So be intentional. When you put the phone down, pick something else up. A book, a Bible, a conversation, a walk, a creative project. Something that returns something to you instead of taking from you. Think about what you loved before the phone colonized your free time. Go back to that thing. The fifth strategy, and this one is the deepest, is to rebuild your capacity for silence. This is the one people resist the most, because silence has become genuinely uncomfortable for us. We fill every quiet moment, waiting in line, driving, lying in bed with noise, and there is a reason for that. Silence forces you to confront yourself. Silence is where the things you have been avoiding catch up with you, but silence is also where God speaks. 1 Kings 19 tells us that God was not in the wind, and not in the earthquake, and not in the fire. He was in the still small voice, the gentle whisper, and you will never hear a whisper when you are surrounded by noise. Start small. 5 minutes of intentional silence a day. Just sit, just breathe, just be. And watch what begins to surface: thoughts, longings, prayers, clarity that the noise has been drowning out. I want to take a moment and talk directly to those of you who feel like this has already gone too far, who are watching this and thinking, I know this is a problem, but I don't know if I can change it. The pull is too strong. The habit is too deep. I've tried before and I've failed. I hear you, and I want to say this with all the grace and all the honesty I have. The fact that you feel the pull this strongly is not a character flaw. It is not a sign that you are weak or faithless or beyond help. It is a sign that you are human and that you have been targeted by systems specifically engineered to exploit your humanity. You are not failing the phone. The The phone is working exactly as designed. But here is what I want you to hold on to. You were made for more than this. Not just more productivity, not just better habits, more life, more depth, more peace, more of the things that actually matter. You were knit together by a God who had a purpose in mind for you, and that purpose has never been to spend your years staring at a screen, comparing yourself to strangers, and feeding your soul on content that leaves you empty. Philippians 4:7 talks about a peace that surpasses understanding, a peace that guards your heart and your mind. That kind of peace is available to you, but you will not find it in a notification. You will not scroll your way to it. It comes from intimacy with God, from groundedness, from stillness, from choosing, over and over again, to turn toward the things that are real. And every single time you choose that, every time you put the phone down and open your Bible instead, every time you sit in prayer instead of scrolling, every time you look up from the screen and make eye contact with someone you love, you are picking up a stone. You are walking toward the giant, and you are fighting a battle that is absolutely worth fighting. David was just a shepherd boy. Let's not lose sight of that. He wasn't a soldier. He wasn't trained for this. He was young and small, and by every earthly measure, he had no business walking out onto that battlefield. Goliath was 9 feet tall. He had been fighting wars his whole life. He was armored from head to foot. His spear alone weighed as much as a small child, and he had been standing in that valley day after day, shouting his challenge, and every single trained soldier in Israel's army had looked at him and decided, we cannot win. But David looked at the same giant and asked a completely different question. He didn't ask, can I win? He asked, who does this giant think he is, defying the armies of the living God? That shift in perspective is everything. When you look at your screen time and feel hopeless, you are asking, can I win? And the honest answer, on your own terms with your own strength, is probably not consistently. The giant is too well armed. But when you shift the question, when you ask who does this distraction think it is, standing between me and the life God has called me to, everything changes. Because now this is not a fight between you and an app. This is a spiritual battle, and in a spiritual battle, you do not fight alone, and the side you are on does not lose. Your digital Goliath is real, the addiction is real, the design is sophisticated and deliberate, and it has been working on you for years. I am not minimizing any of that. But it is not bigger than what lives inside you. The same spirit that raised Christ from the dead lives in you. That is not a metaphor, that is a spiritual reality, and no algorithm, no matter how well designed, is a match for that. So here is my challenge to you today. Not a list of 10 things, not an overwhelming overhaul of your entire digital life. Just one thing, pick one thing from everything we talked about today and do it this week. One thing, protect one morning, create one phone-free space, sit in silence for 5 minutes, do one weekly audit. Start there because you do not need to defeat the giant all at once. You just need to pick up the first stone. You just need to take the first step. You just need to decide that today is the day you stop backing away and you start walking toward. The rest will follow. If this video spoke to something real in you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Leave a comment below and tell me, what is your biggest struggle with your phone? What does your digital Goliath look like? I read every single comment, and I want to hear from you. Take care of your soul, stay grounded, and I will see you in the next one.